What's going on? Welcome back to another video, another episode, another blog, another podcast, all of that good stuff. So today I'm gonna be talking about who has the best side pod design. I know lately, all of the attention has been, and rightfully so, on Mercedes with their new innovative leading edge side pod design. But I wanted to speak more as far as to the functionality and the possibilities of potential and growth within these side pods. So with that being said, I picked like three companies, three of the teams that I definitely admire or like what they have going on. And yes, one of those teams is Red Bull, right? Like let's not play games. I'm objective, right? So I like Red Bull's side pod design. I love Ferrari's side pod design. It just really looks good to me. I know I've heard a bunch of critiques and insults on Ferraris, and lawnmower and all this other stuff, but I really do like their full body, the curvaceous up top, that nice slender like slit up front. I like the way it looks. I'm sorry, it's sexy to me. Okay, it's a fighter jet looking. It's sexy to me. And then you have the Mercedes, which is like really interesting, really way different than majority of the field. Although I think a lot of other teams have been shadowed by, because Mercedes is a colossal, right? So anything they do is going to be heightened. It's going to be blown out of proportion because everybody wants to beat them. If you're not watching Drive to Survive, you'll see that like all the teams hate Mercedes, and that also comes with being the best. Being the best comes with having a population of people that will admire what you do, but hate you because they're not great themselves. But as far as the side pods, and I'm gonna get Bryson back on a podcast, and we're gonna have an episode on side pods and design. He's awesome with that. Like Bryson does a wonderful job with finding that medium between techie tech and the average person knowing the know-how. All right. So I'll get him back on. So I'm not gonna be so like all techie on this. I'm just speaking from almost layman terms and what I see and what I think is the possibility. So as far as side pod design is, I think who comes in third as far as who has the best is going to be Ferrari. Although I love that design and the Ferrari design is very appealing to me, I believe they come in third. Now, I would have to see the inside of all of these side pods to really notice, especially when it comes to Ferrari and Red Bull. Why? Because they have the biggest surface area of a side pod, which to me would mean, of course, Ferrari being the first biggest, which is why they're third to me, means components in there are placed in such a way to optimize or maybe utilize that space, as well as the safety impact structures, because you have to have that in Formula One. You have to have something there to protect the driver. So with that being the case, I would assume that Ferrari has more and bigger components within their side pod. Okay, and I'm gonna conclude why this is gonna be my benefacto to why I'm saying who I think has the best design. The second design, I would go with Red Bull for a couple of reasons. One, I think we saw that lap Max laid down last day in Bahrain, laid down a monster lap, 0.287, something like that, 0.285 off of the track record, which doesn't have a lot of stock to me. I mean, one, we're not in a racing environment. There's no traffic, increased heat elements due to other cars being around. Two, possibly the car was on low fuel, which won't be the entire case as the race starts from beginning to end. And three, I think there's some things that the other teams that could have did not do, because you really, it's like playing poker. You don't want to reveal your hand. But with that being said, Red Bull has, I think, believe a little bit more opportunity to have the better side pod than Ferrari, but not as good as Mercedes. And I go there to say again, because if you look at their side pod structure, their inlet long ways up top, nothing comes down alongside the body. All right. And they introduced a new side pod, a different side pod option during the last day of testing as well. But with that still being said, there are components that could exist in there, as well as side impact components in there, where I would assume they're a little bit more placed in a wider spectrum. When you come to Mercedes, I think they have the best side pod design, although they're having the most issues out of the three teams right now, I believe. We still know they're having porpoising as they're going into straights and even in some of the corners at the last test. The times weren't always the best here, and I don't I don't think that this entire narrative of sandbagging is going to be exactly accurate. I've come to some understanding of myself just looking at it and thinking like, I think Mercedes, I've always said they have the great ability to adapt, right? But often they make things that are so innovative and so leading edge that they themselves don't have a complete handle on what it is when it's developed. Okay, so they're trying to develop this as it is now. And I think later on down the line, yeah, if they get a handle on it, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, just like rightfully so they have been any other time. But I think they have the best side pod design because their side pod design gives them an exponential potential and a diverse range of adaptability. Why? Because their side pod design is slimmer. There's a side pod there. I'm getting tired of people saying no side pod. There's evidently a side pod there, right? It's just way slimmer, way more closer to the monocoque than everything else is. So with that being said, that would tell me that their components are placed more compact, right? We didn't hear of any overheating issues with Mercedes. None during testing, unless they hid that from everybody, which if you're overheating on track, it's going to be it's going to be hard to hide that, but I didn't hear of any overheating issues. So evidently, the technology that they've incorporated with the reactive engines is going well. So with that being said, let's say Mercedes cannot get a handle on this slimmed down side pod. Well, if they go back and reverse back to the original side pod, the wider side pods, which I believe we saw in Barcelona, their components are still running cool, more compact, less displaced on that axis, but now they have a bigger side pod inlet that's going to bring in more air, more cooling. Therefore, the engine should run better. All right, so they have more adaptability. They have more options there, I believe. It's going to cost them far less money to adjust to that smaller frame compact units that are inside of that car than it would for the other teams. So if they wanted to try to, let's say Mercedes gets a handle on this, they get the slim side pod design rocking, the car's going, no overheating issues, they're killing on the track. Well, it's going to be harder for other teams that have bigger side pods, components that are placed a lot wider, side impact structures to protect the driver to try to slim down in the middle of a season. So I believe Mercedes has the best side pod design, although they are not performing the best at this time. There's those two things can be true. I believe they have the best side pod design, although not performing best at this time. Red Bull has proven that right now they are performing better with their package than other teams on the grid, including Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston, and McLaren. Some of the other teams we don't really mention. We got AlphaTauri out there and all the other stuff, but we're talking about the main teams we right now can safely say they're going to be in the top 5, right? So we're going to have Mercedes, Red Bull, Aston Martin, McLaren, and possibly Alpine. All right, those are the 5 teams I'm looking to be up in the grid because, as I said, McLaren it seemed like they were having issues. Not as bad as Haas, not as bad as Williams with exploding shit on the track, but they were having issues. On top of that, Daniel Ricciardo not present for testing. On top of that, Norris had his ailments, right? And then he had issues with the car. I mean, Norris literally was seen trying to push the car back to the garage because he didn't even make it out of pit lane. So McLaren is having some troubles. So we will see. The season is not far from us, right? We're not going to have to wait long for lights out. But with that being said, I do firmly believe Mercedes has the best design. They're always leading. And one thing you can rest assured is Mercedes has proven time over time, they can adapt and overcome their challenges. If they do this one, we're in for a great season, hopefully without any type of manipulative bullshit. All right. So with that being said, that's my take on the side pods. Those are the 3 teams that I admire their side pod designs the most. I do like Aston's. And I do think they were doing fairly well. Stroll seemed to be very, very competitive there. And I think they're probably going to have a good season too, but I'm kind of a little dialed back on them. I know Ferrari last year wasn't much, and I'm like, damn, you got Ferrari up there and not Aston. But Ferrari seemed pretty strong at testing, both drivers and cars. I'm just saying, keeping it objective. So don't forget, I'll be here. We're going to come back with another episode talking about a lot of other things as far as what we saw out of testing. Might even do another episode. We're definitely going to do another episode with Bryson. Hopefully the guest confirms soon, and I'll be having that on, and that also will be a great addition to our podcast. So we will see that. So y'all be safe, all right? Thanks for tuning in and watching another video here at Wolfpack Performance. Check out some of my other content on Formula One issues, our topics, and our DIY products on how to customize your vehicle. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. See you soon.